Further leaks of diplomatic cables sent by Britain's former ambassador in Washington have been published in the UK. They suggest Sir Kim Darroch believed that President Trump unilaterally abandoned the Iran nuclear deal last year to spite his predecessor Barack Obama, who helped negotiate it. Sir Kim described the decision as diplomatic vandalism. Well, let's discuss this more with Michael Singh, who's a Middle East specialist at the Washington Institute and former senior director for Middle East Affairs at the National Security Council. He joins me now from Colorado. Welcome to the programme. So the central allegation appears to be here in this particular bout of leaks that President Trump was putting his own personal agenda ahead of the national interest. What do you make of what's being said?
Let me say from the outset, I think it is a shame these cables have been leaked and that Sir Kim has had to resign. You know, I think the issue of the U.S. withdrawal from the JCPOA, the Iran nuclear deal, is both sort of a political matter, obviously, but also a substantive matter. So the allegation that President Trump withdrew strictly sort of out of spite or out of personal reasons really, I think, is not quite complete, because every one of the 16 Republican candidates in 2016 had said that they would, in fact, withdraw, would tear up the agreement because of concerns that it simply wasn't a good deal.
So you don't think that it will damage President Trump's image back home or add anything to people's perception of him?
I don't think so. No, this was sort of the allegation at the time that he was doing this sort of as a way to roll back President Obama's legacy. But there were sufficient sort of Republican criticisms of the deal that I think, again, that was seen as really an incomplete explanation as to why he had taken the action.
The fact that these leaks have happened, though, does run the risk of undermining transatlantic relations, does it not?
Well, it does. I think that these kinds of leaks, which obviously we've experienced in spades here in the United States, really do hurt relationships. We saw that very clearly with the WikiLeaks episodes. I think they undermine diplomacy, and obviously here they've led to the direct effect of the British ambassador having to step down.
I'm interested by the US reaction, though. What are people saying about it there in the circles in which, the academic circles in which you mix?
Well, you know, it's not something that I think has been as major a story as, say, a WikiLeaks or as some of the other leaks which have taken place, because those were sort of more political stories here in the United States. Obviously, I think this will sort of be a bigger story in London, and questions of the motivations of the leakers is always at the forefront. But as I said, this, I think, mirrors lots of similar stories we've had in the United States over several years, and I think it really does undermine the work of those who are engaged in national security. Well,
indeed, and it might make Tehran feel that it bolsters its position.
Well, it's not a secret, of course, that the U.S., U.K., and our European allies fell out over this question. And I think something of which you're seeing reflected in these cables is the frustration that our European allies felt at the time, because, in fact, the U.S. had been working on a sort of diplomatic fix to our concerns with the deal at the time.
Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Well, those cables, those new cables, have been published despite the British police threatening to prosecute journalists who published leaked government documents. Also, the police have been forced to defend its position over that and has opened a criminal investigation into the hacking of the emails from the UK ambassador in Washington. Both Boris Johnson and Jeremy Hunt, one of whom will be the next British Prime Minister by the end of this month, have defended the rights of the media. Here's our political correspondent, Nick Eardley.
The leaking of Kim Darroch's emails about President Trump has caused diplomatic chaos, political controversy and led to the ambassador's resignation. Now it's caused a furious row about press freedom and what papers should be able to publish. Scotland Yard has warned publishing further leaks could be a crime, last night urging the media to return any documents to the government. But many have raised concerns, including the candidates to be the next Prime Minister.
It cannot conceivably be right that newspapers or any other media organisation publishing such material should face prosecution. It is embarrassing, but it is not a threat to national security, and it is the duty of media organisations to bring new and interesting facts into the public domain.
Well, good afternoon.
Jeremy Hunt said journalists should judge if the leaks are in the public interest.
I think it is also very important to defend in a free society the right of the press to publish material that they think is in the public interest, leaks that they get. It obviously mustn't breach the Official Secrets Act.
Scotland Yard, though, believes it does exactly that. In a statement, Assistant Commissioner Neil Basu said the police didn't want to prevent editors publishing public interest stories. However, we have also been told the publication of these specific documents, now knowing they may be a breach of the Official Secrets Act, could constitute a criminal offence. But again, there's a warning. Journalists can't use the defence of public interest because it just doesn't apply to state secrets. There would still be a public interest test to prosecute, though, and many think that is unlikely.
The only prosecutions we've had are of civil servants who have leaked information to the media. In some circumstances, they've leaked information to MPs. But the media who reported those materials weren't themselves prosecuted. And so it would be very unusual, and I think rather unlikely, that any sort of prosecution would happen.
The leak of Sir Kim's emails has caused headaches for government and curtailed his time in one of the UK's most important diplomatic postings. Now it threatens to pit the police against the press too.